Poem by Nyogen Senzaki, April 9th, 1950. We celebrate Buddha's birth this Easter Sunday. The face of baby Buddha is quite familiar to us. Time and space shrink into this moment, pointing to heaven and earth. Buddha stands right here. Namo tasso bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Thank you for your beautiful recitation of that verse from Ambrosial Nectar. As I said last night, this is a remarkable time of sacred observances. It's a time when we're called to perceive with clarity this great matter of life, death, and to vow to live with courage and faith. On April 4th, we commemorated the death of the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. 55 years ago, April 4th, 1968, he was murdered in Memphis, Tennessee, where he had gone to support sanitation workers in their strike for fair wages. He was 39 years old. All of his great work was done in the span of 13 years. He gave his life in the belief that all beings deserve justice, and that the only way to bring it about is to shine the light of freedom, to embody love. He said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." This is very much like what the Dhammapada said. Buddha said, hatred can never put an end to a hatred. Love alone can. This is an unalterable law. People forget that their lives will end soon. For those who remember, quarrels come to an end. So that was April 4th. This past Wednesday, April 5th, Andy and I held our annual Passover with a group of friends with whom we've been doing this for about 35 years. A bunch of people who are Buddhist, Jewish, and Christian, and a little flexibility in there as well. As most of you know, Passover commemorates the Israelites' struggle for freedom. Their exodus from Egypt in 1186, before the Common Era, led by Moses through the Red Sea, wandering in the wilderness and starting new lives in the desert, based on faith and courage. Throughout the ritual Passover text we recite each year, we're reminded of our obligation to care for those who are downtrodden and oppressed. As the Torah says, we know the heart of the stranger because we were strangers in the land of Egypt. And then, next night, full moon in Libra, the first after the spring equinox, symbolizing enlightened mind, renewal, death, and rebirth. April 7th was Good Friday, the day of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, killed by the Romans, who saw his revolutionary ideals as a threat to the empire. Roshi's unforgettable experience when he was Inji to Soen Roshi. I want to share with you. He was with Soen Roshi and a professor visited, and the professor's mind was occupied with his koan, and he asked, "Tell me, Roshi, how can I expedite my understanding of mood?" I'm sure all of you would like to ask me the same question. What is the most effective way to practice mood and get self-realization? Soen Roshi had invited him for matcha. He continued making the tea. And he asked him, "What did Jesus Christ say on the cross?" The professor replied, "Well, he said, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Soen Roshi said nothing and served the ceremonial tea as if the conversation was over. But from the professor's point of view, it was not. So he asked again, I came all the way from America. I want to know my true nature. So, what is the most effective way to practice Mu? Soen Roshi said again, tell me, what did Jesus Christ say on the cross? The professor replied again rather impatiently, my God, why have you forsaken me? No, Roshi said loudly. Well then, what did he say? The professor asked. That Soen Roshi stood up and spread his arms and became Jesus Christ and cried, my God, why have you forsaken me? Good Friday. This experience which Ada Roshi shared with us indeed has accompanied us year after year on that day. Those of you, how many of you heard him? Yes, yes. So April 8th, Buddha's birthday, the opening of this spring kese. And Ryoju told me a story today about what happened the morning of that day when he and a few of you who came early for session and you who are here for kese were having morning meeting. Mark Merrill, our caretaker, who has many children, brought his latest baby. And it was toward the end of the meeting and he had some work to do. So he brought the baby in and presented it to you, Tovan. Yes? Little girl?
Little boy.
Little boy.
Yeah.
Finally. And so he presented this baby boy to Tovan and said, can I leave him with you? I have some tasks. And you were just at the point of chanting the great vows, Shujo, Muhen, Seigondo, and what did the baby do?
He slipped through just a little.
Just peacefully soaking it in. And as I have said to a couple of you, Mark, his father, was also soaking in the Dharma many years ago when he worked for Muyo Peter Matheson Roshi at his place in Anaganset, Long Island. His first exposure to the Dharma. So who knows, this little baby may be joining us here in a few years. This April 8th was also the 2-year memorial for Henry Francis Straight. Infant son of Guillaume and Maeve Straight at New York Zendo. And we join them in their sorrow with one mind. And today, April 9th, celebrating Buddha's birthday on Easter Sunday, just as Nyogen Senzaki did on April 9th, 1950, 8 years before his passing in Los Angeles. And tomorrow we will commemorate Master Rinzai. And Ramadan began with the sighting of the crescent moon over Mecca, March 22nd, and goes until April 21st, Mandala Day. And all through 2023, we are celebrating, we meaning Zen practitioners, the birth of Mugai Nyodai Zenri, who lived from 1223 to 1298. After I attended a commemorative gathering at Columbia University in 2018 with nuns from the imperial convents in Japan, I realized she needed to be acknowledged in our dedications as a Rinzai lineage holder, and so we have been doing so every dedication. And I'll talk more about her later this week. And it goes on. At Orsenke Chanoyu Center, retired Grand Master of Tea, Sen Genshitsu, has turned 100 years old. He retired at the age of 80, transferring the Iemoto position to his son. And since I will retire as abbot of Zen Studies Society at the same age, 80, on October 1st of this year, I was very taken with what he said in his book, which I received recently, called The Enjoyment of Tea. In his new position of freedom, he said, I intend to do and say the things I must at every opportunity that I am given. That's a great way to retire, isn't it? Mm-hmm. I want to utilize tea in the best possible way. I will do my utmost to help people remember the virtue of modesty that is expressed in the concept of Osaki ni dozo, after you, which is the very spirit of tea, as well as consideration and purification. So Zen and tea. Maybe we need to have a book called The Enjoyment of Zen. Most important. So let's look at this poem by Nyogen Senzaki on this Easter Sunday, 73 years after he wrote it. We celebrate Buddha's birth this Easter Sunday. The face of baby Buddha is quite familiar to us. Why?
We are the Buddha.
You look in the mirror, right?
Right.
None other than your face. This one shining alone, shining all one. And then the next line, time and space shrink into this moment. Time and space, 2,600 years ago or so, some continents apart. This moment, this very place. Here, Buddha stands. Here, Buddha sits. Here, here, here. Pointing. What does he say?
I alone of the world honored one.
That, to me, that sounded like, no, no. I don't think he said that. Hmm?
I alone.
Oh, you better stand up. And now,
I alone.
what about the other hand?
I alone
Two,
in the
pointing,
world honored.
pointing. See? Now, that's good. That's good. Okay. Try again.
I alone am the world honored one.
From the heavens above to the earth below. You have to start that way.
From the heavens above to the earth below, I am the world honored one.
One word you forgot.
From the heavens above to the earth below, I alone am the world honored one.
Yes. Some might think that's a rather arrogant thing to say. What? You alone? But again, keep this alone in your mind with the extra L. Huh? Huh?
All one.
And then, after saying Buddha stands right here, Yogan Sensaki ends with a chant that we recite every day in morning service. Right? You noticed? Hmm? Namo. Everybody? Namo tasso arahato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Monday, can you recite the English? No, you can't. That's not fair.
Okay,
You can.
next birthday. Sorry, which birthday?
You won't find it there. I'll give you a hint. Homage to the Blessed One. Namo Tasso, the worthy one. Bhagavato, the fully enlightened one. Arahato Samba Sambuddhasa. So we bathe this baby Buddha with ambrosial nectar in his flower pavilion and chanting together this verse, residents at newly opened Spring Kese session participants, and all of you, please do bathe the baby Buddha throughout session whenever you have a moment, perhaps in a rest period, not doing zazen, okay? And everyone online, all joining in this celebration of birth and renewal. Each one of us offering this pure water with you, because time and space shrink into this moment, these drops. I think most of you are familiar with the story of Siddhartha Gautama's birth. His mother, Lady Maya, traveling to her native home with her retinue to give birth, and perhaps she began having birth pangs. She stopped in a beautiful flower grove, the garden of Lumbini, and reached toward flowering branch, and just then her time came, and the baby was born. And as the legend goes on, he walked 7 steps north, south, east, west, from the center to each direction, and then returning to the center, returning to the center, and there, as Shigyo Zenji showed, he pointed to sky and ground and declared, of the heavens, from the heavens above to the earth below, I alone am the world-honored one. Surrounded by blossoms, this baby Buddha's arrival around the year 563 BCE. And all of you, I'm sure, know Son Roshi's haiku, written on April 8th, 1946. Hanan no yo no hanan no yo naru hito bakari. All beings are flowers, blossoming in a blooming universe. So it may seem like some long ago story, but you know, each of us burst forth into this life, blossoming in a blooming universe. And every baby's first cry before socialization, before we're taught otherwise, before being knocked down and out a few times, is none other than that. Hail home, and the world-honored one, finally free. This is a cry of radical rebirth, which we can experience walking anywhere around this monastery as well as within our own beings. The spring shoots about to come forth, the buds about to open. Each one of us was born with this feeling. Do you remember? Probably nobody remembers that coming from the formless, taking new form in Mama's womb, and then emerging with a great cry. Here I am! At first breath, exhaling, Declaration of Independence. Wah! Fresh new being, never before, never again quite like it. So each one of us has done this. And the world will never again be quite the same, because all life is interdependent. And each being is completely unique. And acting, engaging, being a part of everything. As Bob Dylan put it, he who is not busy being born is busy dying. We are doing this right here. Reborn, dying, living. So, looking back, again, at what you don't remember, maybe you didn't take 7 steps in each direction, but we all began our lives with this great spirit. And then what? Step after step, perhaps not returning to the center. Perhaps due to causes and conditions, maybe got diverted confused, lost in the darkness of ignorance. Couldn't find the center. Increasingly felt that our steps were taking us further and further away from that original I alone and the world-honored one, and being caught up in various pursuits and compulsions, feeling misaligned, misled, mistaken. And in the midst of all of it, a kind of yearning for something we dimly remember, feeling a call to that center. And because of our fortunate karma, we are here. We are here. And in the clarity that comes with zazen, samadhi, and experiencing our true being, even so, old patterns arise, still swayed, still conflicted, still confused, but we see it more clearly because we are practicing. We see it more quickly. And then we hear Master Rinzai say, all we teachers can do is loosen bonds and cure illnesses. What are the illnesses? He says, he asks us, what is the disease we're suffering from? In chapter 11 of the book of Rinzai's Ascending the High Seat, he says that disease is a lack of self-confidence. If your faith is insufficient, you'll keep on wandering in confusion. No matter what the circumstances, you will be controlled and led around by others. You will not find freedom. If you can stop your continuously seeking mind, then there will be no difference between you and the Buddhas and patriarchs. Would you like to know the Buddhas and patriarchs? They are none other than those of you who are now in front of me listening to the Dharma. Because you students of Dharma don't have enough confidence in yourselves, you search outwardly. Don't have enough confidence in yourselves. So we look into this, right? What about this self-confidence? And we find that very often we're barking up the wrong tree. Self. What about myself? Can I make myself better? There's a magazine called Self. You can look up all the instructions for self-improvement. But it's not the self of self-help or self-absorption or self-blame, for that Master Rinzai is speaking of. What is it to have self-confidence? How do you find self-confidence? What is your experience of feeling self-confidence arise? Well, you may be thinking to yourself, I'll let you know when I get there. But really, any time you completely give yourself over, okay, this is the big paradox. Not that there is some self that we can manipulate and, mold into something that we think would be better than what we are. But it's giving it all away. Completely surrendering to whatever it is that we are doing. When we listen, really listen, who's listening? When we are chanting, I'm sure you have had this experience. You disappear. Huh? When you are holding a newborn baby, there's no you there. Bathing the baby Buddha, who is pouring that water? Who is stabbing? This kind of intimacy, we may call it. True self-confidence arises because that small self that you've constructed so well and have fortified so well and have built up such barriers around, just faith is born through such experiences. In the verse we recited, having poured ambrosial nectar, this pure water from Beecher Lake, the 5 defilements depart from all beings. All those old patterns, the states that cloud the mind, fear, hostility, preferences, self-protective actions that close us off from the real deal. These defilements depart when we are just one with whatever we are. You can use any gerund you wish. Doing, saying, receiving, hearing, being. Whenever what we do is done with complete sincerity, complete aspiration. May I be a vessel of Dharma. This feeling, reverence, gratitude, coming naturally, offering, purifying. Thus, as the verse ends, we all realize the pure Dharma body of the Buddha. So, this baby grew up surrounded by material comforts. And yet, despite his luxurious surroundings, there was this sense of deeply etched impermanence. After all, his mother had died soon after he was born. And one day, he went out from the palace, and what did he see?
Someone who is sick?
Hmm?
Someone who is sick?
Someone sick. And what else?
Someone that died.
Hmm?
Someone that died.
Someone who died. And what else?
Suffered.
All of this suffering. What
Old
else?
age.
Hmm?
Old age.
Yeah. Old age. Let me tell you. How about it, Sultan? Huh? Old age. The greatest koan, you always say, right? Greatest koan. Being stuck in this 80-something body, jeez. He saw old age, sickness, death. And he also saw what?
Monk.
Someone sitting in meditation. And not long after that, he left his princely life for good. To find out, why am I here? What is this all about? How can we be free from suffering? And it was springtime, and he sat down under a fig tree and resolved not to get up until he had realized, fully penetrated this great matter of life, death. It was the first full moon of spring, just as we had a few days ago, and he sat deep meditation. Mara's armies couldn't sway him from his great determination. And after 8 days, at dawn, he saw
Morning star.
morning star and awakened. And it is said that the tree under which he sat burst into bloom, and in the fragrant spring breeze, blossoms floated down, and he became the Buddha. So all throughout his life, birth, enlightenment, his teaching, and his death, flowers, blossoming. When he stood before the assembly at Vulture Peak and said not a word, silently held out a flower, and no one responded but Mahakashapa, who smiled at that smiling flower. You see them all? Smiling. First transmission, smile to smile, flower to flower. The scroll on the left of the altar is by Tani Kogetsu Roshi and Eido Shimano Roshi. And it says, twirling a flower, fragrance permeates my robe. And Nyomin Senzaki tells of Subhuti, who received the Buddha's teaching, as you recall in the Diamond Sutra. And let me just read this little section. Subhuti was the disciple for whom Buddha preached his Diamond Sutra. Nyomin Senzaki is telling us. He was able to understand the potency of emptiness, the viewpoint that nothing exists except in the relationship of subjectivity and objectivity. One day, Subhuti, in a mood of sublime emptiness, was sitting under a tree. Flowers began to fall about him. "We are praising you for your discourse on emptiness," the gods whispered to him. "But I have not spoken of emptiness," Subhuti said. "You have not spoken of emptiness. We have not heard of emptiness," responded the gods. "This is true emptiness." And blossoms showered upon Subhuti like rain. And when the Buddha lived out this incarnation and passed into final nirvana, petals floated down from the rare Udambara, a type of fig tree again, that is said to flower only once every 3,000 years. In the Great Parinirvana Sutra, the Buddha said, "The Buddha's appearance in the world is rare. The human form difficult to attain. And directly having faith in the Buddha's birth is something also difficult. Being capable of patience is difficult. Attaining the human body is rare. Your meeting me must not be passed by in vain." So Buddha Shakyamuni was born. We were born. We recite every morning. This Dharma is rarely met with. And you know how difficult it is to attain human form, right? What's the metaphor in the Samyutta Nikaya Sutta? Anybody remember?
Turtle in the ocean.
Yeah, that blind 1,000-year-old turtle that only comes to the surface of the ocean every 100 years and just happens to push his head through a hole in a floating piece of wood. That's how rare it is to receive this human form. So we know our task, difficult as it is, requiring great patience, great courage, great faith. Faith, yes, this is another way of saying self-confidence. To have this with confidence, with faith in who we truly are. Sitting, standing, pointing, walking the walk of our lives. This itself is nothing but what we are here to do. And we can't force it. All we can do is return again and again, breath after breath, sitting after sitting, session after session, and the blossom opens in its own time, with the readiness of time, which is now. And then just give it all away. This is why we have been